With so many new weapons coming into Warframe, it can be very easy to forget some of the classics and think like, pah, they're no longer relevant. And that's not only not true, it's also a crying shame, because gems such as the Synoid Gammacor still pack one hell of a punch. And today, my friends, we're gonna be rediving deeper into this secondary weapon. As always, my name is Leyzar, and I got a cheap build, something affordable for newer Tenno coming into Warframe. But rest assured, we also got the endgame setups. We got Prime Mods, Galvanized mods, Rivens, Warframe buffs. We're gonna head on over to Steel Path so you can see actual gameplay performance, essentially the works. That said though, please bear in mind that my builds and guides usually take a more new player friendly approach. I'm gonna be taking my time and explaining whatever I feel is necessary for newer Tenno. So in case you're a vet and you already know some of this stuff, you can either skip ahead or have a bit of patience. And with that out of the way, let's jump into the Synoid Gammacor. Let's begin by checking out how the weapon handles without any mods equipped. And for that, just a couple of our usual free shots. And yes, my friends, I'm doing this one entirely live, so fingers crossed, toes crossed, whatever you can cross it, so it comes out in a single take, which almost never happens. But that's not important. What is important, my friends? The Synoid Gammacor. This one is a secondary beam weapon with a limited range of 40 meters. Yes, you heard that one right, 40. Take a look. That's gonna be 38, 7, 8, yeah, to the target, and as you can see, I can still comfortably hit it. And this being a beam weapon, no drop off whatsoever, which is absolutely insane. The magazine is solid, the fire rate is solid, the reload is solid, the weapon is pinpoint accurate. What more can you ask for? Well, it does have a little bit more. You see, my friends, this is a Syndicate weapon, and being a Syndicate weapon, it has a Syndicate effect with no additional mod required whatsoever. Take a look in the lower right hand part of the screen, you see the Cephalon Suda symbol. That is because you obtained this weapon for standing from Cephalon Suda, and the effect is called Entropy. Essentially, when you get about 2000 affinity, you will release an AoE explosion. All enemies within 25 meters of the player will receive 1000 magnetic damage and a guaranteed magnetic proc. The player recovers 25% of their base energy. Also, base energy is increased by 25% for 30 seconds, which is absolutely insane. So straight off the bat, the weapon is simply insane. It's got usability, it's got power, it's got essentially everything. But let's have a closer look at stats to see exactly what we're dealing with. Mod capacity, 60 out of 60, and if your comes to only 30 out of 30, jump into actions, plug in that Auto King Catalyst, double that mod capacity. Is it worth it? It's a hard question to answer for me because it's not one of the best secondary weapons in Warframe. Is that what you're after? Is that what you want? You want one of the best, the most powerful secondary weapons in Warframe. The best is not the right thing to say. The most powerful secondary weapons in Warframe, this is not one of them. But if you want a hard-hitting, really cool, and super useful secondary beam weapon, go for this one. Plug in that Auto King Catalyst. Now my Gammacor has been formatted a total of 8 times. There's a story behind that one, but that's not important. For the weapon build I'm recommending you can get away with 4 Forma. Got Galvanized mods, got a 5 Forma. Got Prime mods, 6 Forma. You got a Riven too, 7 Forma. Is it worth? Well, you're gonna have to decide that one for yourself, so stick around until the end. Definitely unlock the weapon Exilus mod slot, yes or no? Well, the answer is maybe. Essentially, initially I wanted to say, yeah, it's a no-brainer, dude. Definitely unlock it. Because nowadays we get to use Ruinous Extension in the Exilus slot, which is absolutely insane. Plus 8 beam length. So basically, your range is going from 40, which was already insane, all the way to 48. Plug in some punch through that and it's gonna be absolutely insane, man. So yeah, you can unlock this one, but again, 40 meters is more than enough. As for the empty arcane slot, obviously you want to unlock this one. Any of these arcanes are going to be extremely powerful. If you're going to use it in tandem with your melee, which I'm assuming is what most players will be doing, you go with dexterity. If you want to go for the headshot kills, deadhead obviously. If you want to go for proc kills, which this weapon isn't really built to do, you go with merciless. My recommendation, deadhead in the case of the Synoid Gammacor. Now back to those stats. Accuracy is gonna be 100, we don't care. Should you go with Magnum Force? I'm gonna go with a maybe on this one, because you know what? The negative accuracy penalty is actually quite large, even though this is a beam weapon, and on some level that doesn't really make any sense. But allow me to demonstrate in the usual 15 meter test. 15, something like that. Take a look at the beam. You see that? It's bouncing actually outside of the crosshairs, and let's say you want to make use out of that glorious range. This is like 30 meters to the target. You see that? The beam sometimes is actually bouncing completely off the target, so use it at your own risk. Does that make any sorts of sense? You are kind of compromising the weapon's efficiency at long range, so do bear that one in mind. Let's talk about crit. Is it worth it on this one? Yes, it's at the edge of barely worth it. 20% base is good, 2.0 critical multiplier is decent, and I would classify this as a decent critical weapon. Keep in mind that for secondary weapons we do have prime critical mods, prime pistol gambit, and prime target cracker. Not only that, in more recent times, creeping bullseye did receive a buff. 200% critical chance at the cost of 20% fire rate. Now don't get me wrong, the minus 20% fire rate does hurt you, but it's still worth, in my opinion, on the Synoid Gammacor. Fire rate by default is 12, which is awesome. Magazine of 80 with a 1.8 second reload, which is bellissima. Riven disposition 3 out of 5, which means again that Rivens are worth getting. For this one, it's not gonna be too horrible to get a worthwhile Riven. Status chance 28%, which on a beam weapon is huge, because keep in mind that when it comes to beam weapons, for each and every single ammo you're getting 2 damage ticks on your target, which means 2 potential sources of applying a proc. So it's procs all day, all night. Unfortunately though, the weapon by default only has magnetic. In years past, I used to hate when I see the whole array of IPS, but nowadays, because of this mod right here called Galvanized Shot, and its counterparts for primaries and melee, this one gives you extra damage for the number of status types afflicting your target. Now I know what you're gonna say, dude, I can use a primer. Yes, you can, but if you think about the weapon as its own thing, without thinking about outside buffs or outside influences, then unfortunately, because the weapon has magnetic by default, you're not gonna be able to stack that many elements. 3, maybe maximum of 4. That said, initially we're gonna check out a new player-oriented setup, and then we're gonna gradually bump up with prime mods, galvanized mods, Rivens, Warframe buffs, essentially the works. And with that, let's check out a standard build. And we got damage with Hornet Strike, multi-shot with Barrel Diffusion, as well as Lethal Torrent, critical chance and critical damage with Creeping Bullseye and Target Cracker. Once again, I would like to talk about crit here really quick. You can go with Pistol Gambit if you can't suffer the minus 20% fire rate. From my point of view, in this case, it's definitely worth it. And if you don't know where to get Creeping Bullseye or other corrupted bonds, which you sorely need to have for your Warframes, for your weapons, for essentially everything, all you gotta do is farm them from votes. You don't know how to farm votes? Haha, I'm glad you asked that. Link the cards right now. What else we got? 2 elemental mods on the weapon, but what gives? One is a 90 and one is a 60-60 mod. So without overstressing this is a new player-oriented setup. None of these mods are expensive, none of these mods are hard to get. I will make the following mention, however. When it comes to expensive mods to upgrade, such as Hornet Strike, because you need to sink a lot of credits and endo into it, leave 1-2 from the top. Trust me, it's not really gonna make that huge of a difference. And of course, the Ruinous Extension in the Exla slot. Now, I'm using 190 and 160 because, given the nature of the weapon, and you're gonna have Corrosive and Magnetic on it, Corrosive and Magnetic cap out at 10 procs per target, right? The thing is, you're gonna get to 10 procs, boom, like that. You're gonna get to 10 procs when your target is around 50% health, right? You're gonna max out those procs. It's pointless to go for 2 60-60 mods in this case. Believe it or not, you can even go for 2 90 mods in the case of the Synoid Gammacor. It's simply that efficient at applying status, so why not increase the damage? And as per usual, the final slot is your option slot. Plug into this one whatever you feel comfortable with. Perhaps you like some crit, don't you? Because you like pretty numbers on your screen, my friends. You can go for some additional crit with hydraulic crosshairs. You got galvanized of the crosshairs? Sure, you can definitely go for this one as well. Just bear in mind that galvanized crosshairs will completely reset its buff if you miss the timer, right? So if you don't get another kill within the timer, it doesn't drop to a lower stack, it completely resets. This is as designed, right? This is Digital Extreme's design. It's not a bug from what I understood. What other options we have? Well, Brute Force is always good, especially when it comes to normal level content, and by normal level content I mean up until level 150-ish, even 200, so you can go with the aforementioned Magnum Force. Not a bad idea. but perhaps you want to leverage that big magazine. In that case, increase the fire rate or add some punch through. Keep in mind, you got that super huge range, right? Some punch through definitely is not a bad idea, but if you want to go for fire rate, my favorite, another corrupted mod that you can get from the same Vault runs, Anemic Agility with 90% fire rate and minus 15% damage. I should point out Gunslinger, however. You see the difference between Anemic Agility and Gunslinger isn't as big as it is for the counterparts of these mods when it comes to primary weapons. Heavy Calibre versus... no wait, what was the fire one? Vile Acceleration, yes, Vile Acceleration versus Speed Trigger. That's for primaries, right? And for primaries, you got a bigger difference when it comes to the actual fire rate, so it is worth going like 90% of the time for Vile Acceleration. In the case of secondary weapons, Anemic Agility and Gunslinger, you only got 18% between the two, and for that 18%, you are sacrificing 15% of the damage, so Gunslinger is definitely worth bearing in mind. We're gonna test out the weapon like so you can see what kind of performance you can expect. Oh, nothing up my sleeve, okay? No silly Warframe buffs to skew the test results. This is just the weapon, what it can do on its own. No corrosive projection, no arcanes, nothing of the sort. Wait, let's kill him off, just to make sure we have a fresh batch. Level 120, corrupted. What the, where'd he go? Oh, they're over here. I spawned him too quickly. I think that should be enough. Go straight for headshots, and as you can see, my friends, it's Melt City. Now, there's a reason why it's Melt City. It's Melt City because I got magnetic and corrosive on my targets. Look at that, boom. 10 corrosive procs, absolutely annihilating the targets. It is true that this build wouldn't do as well if in front of me they were targets that did not have ferrite armor as their main defense. For example, on bombards, it doesn't do as much. Even though bombards have lower EHP total, those are equipped with alloy armor. And when it comes to alloy armor, what you want to do is hit them up with a little bit of radiation. Radiation dealing 75% more damage against alloy armor, just like corrosive deals 75% more damage against ferrite armor, which these guys have. You following me? Fantastic. That's it for a standard performance on the weapon. Again, Magnum Force is not a bad idea for it, but you are sacrificing that range. If not, use fire rate, use a little bit of more crit, or some punch through. Definitely not a bad idea. Now, let's say you're not a new player in Warframe, right? And you want to pump up the values. You want to try for a bit more end-game setup. In that case, it means you already have Prime mods. So we swapped in Prime Pistol Gambit and Prime Target Cracker instead of the normal version. So, and we also swapped in the 90% electricity mod instead of the 60-60. Honestly, the 60-60 would have made a whole lot more sense from my point of view, but unfortunately that would mean for me to Forma one more time and then reforma back so I can show you the final setup. So we're gonna go like so against the same level 120 corrupted heavy goons, just so you can see what kind of a difference you can expect out of Prime mods. Look at that. A lot more crit. It just boom escapes into the target and absolutely annihilates it. Fantastic. So this is the kind of performance you can expect if you got Prime mods. Next, what we're going to be doing, I want to show you if you pump everything up even further, but this time with Galvanized mods. And finally, we're going to take a look at the Riven setup. Also for the Galvanized setup, we're also going to go a little bit to Steel Path, right? So you can see actual performance in normal Steel Path. Normal Steel Path, I mean like level 120 Steel Path. Right, if you got the Galvanized mods, then it's pretty much a no-brainer what you can do. Galvanize Diffusion instead of the normal version, and we're gonna take off Magnum first like so. We're gonna keep on Lethal Torrent, and we're gonna be using Galvanized Shot. Now this one, it doesn't offer as huge of a benefit as it could if you think about it, because we only got magnetic and corrosive. But if you can apply something else to your targets, maybe you're taking your Panzer Volpaphyla to Steel Path, because you know Panzer Volpaphyla is meta now. You got one more element, or you got something else to proc your target, something else to primer your targets, then you're gonna be getting a whole lot more damage than Galvanized Shot. Oh, one more thing, I did explore the option where we don't build the weapon into crit, since the base crit stats are not that fantastic. But unfortunately, that build offered worse results than with crit. So, by all intents and purposes, still build crit on the Synoid Gammacor. And one last thing, we're gonna go back to... I think I should cut this out. Ruinous Extension and 160-60 mod. The cheaper one. The cheaper one is the Toxin. And boom, we're ready to go. Fantastic. We're gonna test on the level 120 corrupted heavy goons, and then with this build, without a Riven, so you got Prime mods and Galvanized mods, we're gonna head on over to Steel Path to see some performance. But first, take a look at that. Now, of course, with galvanized mods, my friends, you need to stack them a little bit in order to see the real power. Take a look at my buff bar in the upper right portion of the screen. That is absolutely insane, man. Beautiful. Now, before we go to Steel Path, and of course this is a whole lot better than before, what we're gonna be doing is using arcanes as well. I believe that while arcanes are not exactly new player friendly, we are past the point of new player friendly right now. So if you're going Steel Path, my understanding and assumption is that you also got weapon arcane. So we're gonna be doing that. And finally, one last trick. When it comes to arcanes, we already talked about this. For the most part, we're gonna be going with Deadhead. Now, did you notice in actual testing what stops us? What stops the carnage? Did you notice? Hold on, I'll show you one more time. The only slight issue you have with this weapon is when you reload. And granted, the reload is only 1.8 seconds, but if you didn't have that pesky reload, what you could have is basically party all the time, non-stop firing. As long as you do manage to get yourself some headshot kills, and you gotta go for headshot kills because of the arcane as well. So what we're gonna be doing is applying on our Warframe. We're gonna take Revenant to Steel Path, because, you know, Daddy Revenant is OP and all that good stuff. Make sure, if possible, if your build allows you, take Arcane Pistolier. Now, Arcane Pistolier is obtained from Arbitration. And it may not be the easiest thing in the world to farm, but by all intents and purposes, it really provides a huge benefit on the right weapon. Rank 5 on pistol headshot kill, just like the Arcane head, dead head. 60% chance for 102% ammo efficiency for 12 seconds. And with that, we're off to the path of steel. Corrupted Heavy Goon, hello, level 130 and dead. Fantastic, no problem whatsoever. Of course, the infested are much easier to kill. And when you're facing with enemies like this, make sure you take off the drone first, because the drone can actually add a whole lot of survivability. As you can see, my friends, even in Path of Steel, the power of the Gammacor cannot be denied. Will it be performing this well if these were level 2000 or 3000? No, obviously not. But do you really face level 2000, 3000 or that often? To my knowledge, only very few players legitimately play that high level. And this is the kind of performance you can expect out of the Gammacor. Now back to the Simulacrum. And the last build which I do want to show you guys is my maxed out Riven setup. Now, Riven disposition again is set at 3 out of 5. So Rivens for the Synoid Gammacor or for the Gammacor in general are definitely worth getting. Make sure when you buy a Riven, you have at least damage multi-shot on it. An element would be fantastic, especially if you're gonna go into galvanized shot. Critical stats are not horrible, but they're definitely not ideal considering the base. So do bear that one in mind. This one has electricity, multi-shot, and damage with 69 rolls, for obvious reasons. And is what I like to call a decent Riven for the Synoid Gammacor. Now, let's head on over to the Corrupted Heavy Goons, still level 120, so you can see the difference in performance. Then we're gonna add some Warframe buffs and buff up the level. Whew, yeah. How's that? How's that? How was that? Come on, man. The weapon absolutely shreds. I 100% love it. Look at that. Boom, boom. Yes, a Riven will make a difference. It is dispo free. It's not dispo 5, but still, dispo free still makes quite the difference. And the last thing which I do want to show you guys, of course, is Warframe buffs. And for that, we're going to be using the ever so lovely Lady Mirage Prime and her outstanding buffs. When it comes to Aura's corrosive projection against Grenier is the best way to go because it reduces some of that armor. It's not as powerful as it used to be. It did get nerfed, but for very good reasons. However, the Aura is not the end-all be-all. If your build calls for something like, I don't know, physique, rejuvenation, or whatever else, go for the Aura of your choosing. And don't forget, if the Aura is that important to you, Coaction Drift can bump up the value of your Aura. When it comes to Arcanes, these are a lot more impactful, my friends. You can go for something like Arcane Avenger. This one helps with low base crit weapons. On damage, 21% chance for plus 45% critical chance for 12 seconds, simply stacking on top of what you already have. It doesn't care about the weapon's base critical chance, obtained from the third Eidolon down on Cetus. As for your second option, what you can do is go for Arcane Grace. Now, Arcane Grace simply adds... Arcane Grace? Arcane Precision! I meant... Arcane Precision simply adds flat damage, 300% damage to secondary weapons for 18 seconds. It's on headshot, 100% chance. Careful how it reads on headshot, not on headshot kill. It's a strong option, but I would recommend, as before, you go with Pistolier, so the party never stops. This one is farmed from arbitrations, and we already talked about that one. The Sentinel trick doesn't really apply when it comes to secondary weapons, but if you want to buff up your stuff even further, what you can go for is something like a Panzer Vulpifila. This will be adding that very, very important vital proc, so do bear that one in mind. And I think that is pretty much it. Oh, fix the fashion. Gotta fix the fashion. We're gonna go like so, and boom, now it looks right. We're gonna bump up the level of our targets to 160. We're gonna be unpausing them so they can hit me and I can get my glorious buffs. Activate Mirage's Empower ability, which I use instead of her ultimate ability, and then her free ability, Eclipse, for an absolutely massive damage increase. And one more time, for the ever so lovely clones. Best animation in framework. Now, of course, the weapon was absolutely melting before. It's gonna be like, look. And this is a single target weapon, I would point out. This is not an AoE weapon. This is single target damage, but simply because of the raw strength you can get out of this combination, it simply melts everything that stands before you. And does my absolute favorite magic trick of now you see them, now you don't. And I do believe, my friends, that is pretty much it for the Synoid Gammacor. Let's draw some conclusions. Is it one of the most powerful secondary weapons in Warframe? It wouldn't make my top 10, simply because there are plenty of other more powerful secondary weapons, but it's definitely not a slouch, and it's still a secondary weapon that I highly recommend to just about anyone, especially considering that this one comes at a low mastery rank of 7. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, favorite, share, and subscribe if you enjoy the content. If you got any sorts of feedback for me, I would love to read it in the comment section down below. Oh, also in the comment section down below if you guys want to suggest any particular type of content. And if you enjoy the content, hey, consider supporting us via Patreon. Link in the cards right now. You can also catch me on Twitch, as in right here, Facebook, Twitter, all the usual places. But until next time, my friends, bye-bye.